Ahoy YouTubers, this is Andu and welcome back to my channel. Now I want to get this out of the way first. I know I haven't uploaded a video in I think 6 or 7 months. I'm very sorry for that. I've recorded probably a dozen videos in that time, but I haven't sat down to edit any of them. I was busy with school, I was busy during the summer, I've got a job that I'm working, 5 days a week, as well as several other side jobs. I've been a camp counselor, I was a training officer at a military style, not military, but military style encampment. I've been really busy. And I've taken, like I said, I've recorded a lot of videos in that time, Nerf, Lego, and otherwise, including a few vlog videos that are not related to my normal hobbies that you see here, but that are related to things I have done. For instance, some robotics for a school thing, as well as some cool helicopter flights I got to do as part of that training officer position. I look forward to uploading all those videos and recording more because I'm hoping to get a few projects done in the next month. Since it's the end of summer, I finally have a little time to myself. Not much, but a little. So, what is this video all about? Well, I'm sure most of you watching this video have heard of my TriadStrike. It's a concept that I didn't come up with, per se, that several other people came up with first, but that I've gotten a lot of recognition for because of the way that I integrated two blasters. And it's the first video on my channel to get over 1,000 views. I'm long-winded. So, with that out of the way, TriadStrike. I built a new one, and it is called the Fangtastic TriadStrike. Now, if you're wondering where the name came from, Lord Drac, a very popular YouTube nerfer, does almost all of his paint jobs, at least the ones for his own blasters, in this red and black color scheme that he calls fanger. His fanger red. Well, I found out through some careful searching as well as some checking online with people who know Drac exactly what color that was. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's a burgundy, maybe a crimson from Krylon Fusion. So I found out exactly what color that was. And I added some silver in because this, sadly, is not for me. I really wish I got to keep this, but I did this as a commission as part of a trade for someone who gave me all the parts that I need to build my eventual elite longshot, which I've been spending months and months and months planning. So that's a video for another time. So this was made as part of that trade, and I have made huge improvements over the original TriadStrike. Excuse me. Huge improvements. They were minor fixes, but they made a big difference. The original TriadStrike had a 4-piece segmented tube. There was to redirect the air from the plunger here down and then back up into the Triad. There was a tiny little piece of nylon tubing coming out of the plunger that went into a 3-piece elbowed segmented piece of braided PVC supply line. And so that nylon tube was a huge bottleneck. And so I removed that entirely, and I'll show you that when I get to the internals walkthrough. I also sealed all of the bends in the air pipe with hot glue instead of with electrical tape, so I have an excellent seal that isn't going anywhere. And I also kept the black rubber stopper in here. So I went from 4 pieces of custom cut tubing to 2. And none of them are any smaller than supply line. They're all supply line, none of those tiny nylon tubes to slow the air down. And I originally planned to put the same spring into this that I put into the last one. The original TriadStrike had a 7-kilogram Firestrike spring from Orange Modworks. That is twice the original strength from a Firestrike of 3.5 kilograms. Believe it or not, this one has the same stock spring. 3.5 kilograms of force, but I get range equal to or superior to the original. And I'm pretty sure that's just because of the air delivery improvements that I made. Not having that little bottleneck in there, as well as keeping the rubber stopper, or the rubber whatever you want to call it, has made a drastic improvement in performance. And I'm looking forward to what will happen when I start actually making spring improvements. But those are for later generations, like the Mark III, which I have on the board, which there will be videos about eventually. So anyway, this has the improved air delivery system, the stock spring. I also made efforts to make this even cleaner if I could. These black bars up here, that sit in this slot. I cut them a little too short on the original TriadStrike. I made sure they were longer so they fit almost flush to the head. I also, on the original, cut this orange piece here too far down, so it didn't actually meet up with the Triad head right here. And obviously, I just cut that better, and now it looks much cleaner, and I'm much more pleased with that. You'll see that I still have the plastic lens in here. That's because this has a custom tactical light. Now, it's not quite as bright as I had hoped. I think that has something to do with how thin the wires are in part of this system, but it is still plenty bright. I used a jumbo white LED, I think it was 10 millimeters, but I'm not sure, from Radio Shack, as well as a 270 ohm resistor, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But that is fed by a 9 volt in the handle here and works on the same trigger, and it's pretty darn cool. Now, oh, embarrassing, I forgot my screwdriver. Got it. So, screwdriver. This has a 9 volt battery in the handle for this semi-powerful little tack light, and you don't have to disassemble the blaster. I like my blasters to come apart cleanly, and just like the Firestrike and its 2 double or triple A's, whatever they were, you unscrew this, you pull it out, and there's your 9 volt. You'll see there's the cap here on the bottom. Now, originally, I wanted the cap to be at the top so you could swap them out like magazines on a firearm, but people pointed out to me that the only way to really make that work was to have it on the bottom. I don't remember who recommended that, but thank you. I got that input on Nerf Modders Welcome on Facebook. But you see, if I had this up at the top, there was no room to put something to hold that in place. And so by having it on the bottom, you just unsnap it, and you pull the battery out. Now, the battery is a very tight fit. I had to chop out a lot of ribbing in here to make this fit, but it works. And so there's my 9 volt. And let's make sure I have it oriented correctly. And then it slides in. You put the cap back on. You just have to make sure that these wires are tucked in out of the way, and you'll see I even took off the panel on here to make as much room for this battery as I possibly could. And it's a tight fit, but it works. And then I'll tighten it back down. And there you go. So if you need to replace batteries, it's just that simple. One screw. Some other things about it. Let's go over the paint job. So I mentioned that this is a crimson or a burgundy, I don't recall which, from Krylon Fusion. I got the satin finish, and this is, so I got the satin finish for that. I got the satin black in the Krylon Fusion, and I learned that I need to use a finer grit sandpaper when applying paint jobs, because I could see some of the sanding marks showing through, but the clear coat has evened that out, so it's still plenty comfortable to the hand. All of this silver is silver enamel. I think it's Testers, I'm not sure. But that was hand painted with a brush, and boy, was that tedious. Nerfomania recommended to me that I stop using enamel for detailing, and I see his point, because it's hard to clean enamel paint out of brushes, and if you screw up, you're in for a world of pain. So anyway, this was all hand brushed, and then you'll see the handle is one of the parts I'm the most proud of. I used a Krylon black paint pen to go back over the Nerf logos here on the handle, and I'm very pleased with how that turned out. And I did, take these handle panels off because these separate from the main blaster shell when I was painting, so that made it so much easier. So that was silver enamel. Here I used a combination of brushwork and paint pen to get the Nerf logos. It was just really tough to do that, however you did it, but I got it done. And then this was silver enamel as well. And of course, since this is kind of an homage, it's too late, I don't remember how to pronounce that, to Drac's Fang colors, and since he is the one who inspired me as a fresh, new modder, I decided I wanted to add his Fang signature on here. I had nothing else that would fit up here anyway, and I could have just used it, but as a matter of protocol, I asked him for permission anyway, and so with his blessing, his fang signature is up here. That was also done with a black paint pen. Then my signature is back here. Now, if you don't know what my signature is, I'll give you a hint. Halo. That's all you get. That was done with a silver paint pen, and to get that drawn out, I have a hard time doing it by hand, so I printed off, printed this symbol on a sheet of paper, traced it all over on one side with a pencil, and that turned it into carbon paper. So I laid it over and I poked it along the lines a bunch of times. I had a bunch of little pencil marks in this shape, and I traced that with the paint marker. I wanted to maintain as much orange on this as I could, since it is intended for HVZ by the recipient. So triggers are, of course, orange here. The rod, this little clip, even though it's useless, is still there with its spring. And I taped off this muzzle from the outset. And I'm actually very pleased that not much paint made it under the edge there. That was really tough to get taped off well, but it held together through all of the paint that I put on this and all of the clear coat. And let me tell you, I put a lot of clear coat on here. I don't want anything happening to this paint. I put at least a can, maybe more, I don't recall. It took me a long time to get the right conditions though. For some reason, Grand Rapids has been super humid all summer. And my first few attempts started turning this all frosty, and it was terrible. And I had to wait like 2 months for 50% humidity. So I finally got down low enough, and it finally turned out good. But so this all turned out fine. There's a little bit of a blemish because it was under the tape. You can see a little bit of the blue here from the Triad handle that was cut off. Oh well. I tried to get a paint pen for that, but it just didn't match. And so that's the paint job. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I think I got just the right amount of detail in here, not too much, because there's more I could have detailed, not too little, so it's still interesting. And that's how that turned out. And I just kind of think this looks really cool with the black darts. So, if you haven't seen my video before, a TriadStrike, the point of it is you have the functionality and power of a Firestrike with the barrels of a Triad. So, I pushed the light trigger. Now, the new Rebel Messenger. I haven't got my hands on one yet. I am looking forward to doing a comparison video with that eventually. So I'll save most of my analysis for later. But something nice that I like about this blaster is, one, the room you have for a light, and two, I have dart storage. So I've got 2 more shots. And something else I'll point out is that I do have the ability to dual wield. Eventually I will make 2 TriadStrikes and do a dual wielding video, because the Firestrike was designed for that. You sink this hook into the loop here, and the nice thing is, with the TriadStrike, you don't have to reload between shots. With a stock Firestrike, oh look, you have to reload, and then you can prime it. I mean, it just really gets annoying, makes dual wielding slow and inefficient. For those people who were asking how loud this is, well, it's still got the Triad air restrictors, so I know a few folks in the stock community have shown interest in this blaster, and the biggest thing they dislike about modded blasters is how loud they are. Well, this doesn't have a thwack at all. It sounds just like a stock Firestrike. Actually, it's even a bit quieter. So that's that. I am going to do a little bit of a range demo outside, as well as a segment in the dark showing you the light, and I'm going to cut to that. Range comparison, TriadStrike Mark II versus Firestrike. Up, TriadStrike Mark II. Firestrike. So I fired 3 taggers and 3 elite darts from each blaster. And I'm not even going to make a guess on the range, just because I don't have the measuring tape out. But let's see where all these darts landed. So we've got a tagger down here at the lowest range, a couple of elites, a couple more taggers, as well as 2 elites and a tagger kind of at the outlier. And as you can see, basically all the shots landed really, really close to each other. Here you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 5 of the 6 taggers within 5 feet of each other, as well as 4 of the elites, all in that same cluster. Then we've got 2 elites over here, as well as a single tagger. If there's any others, I missed them, but the performance range-wise is just about the same. They both have outliers, and the rest of them kind of fit all in this one group together. So from what my subjective guess is, that the stock Firestrike has just a little more exit velocity, but the range comes out to about the same. So here are the internals. The things that you will notice. Here's my 9-volt battery, and I kept this circuit board with this switch in place for the light system. Now I had to do a lot of clearing of ribs and support elements in the handle. It's still plenty strong, but I really had to hollow this out, hollow the cap out, hollow this out, and I had to trim this trigger down so that the battery would fit in here. And the battery doesn't interfere with the operation of this at all either. But you'll see this switch, this trigger pushes on this switch here, which is from the original battery box, or not battery box, from the original circuit board here. I left this intact. Let me take a couple of internal pieces out. Something you might notice, and of course heavy greasing as always. I'll set that aside. If you are really familiar with Firestrikes, you'll know that back here is a little resistor-like thing on the board. And where did mine go? Here it is. This is what it looked like, this little thing. Now it looks more like a ceramic resistor or a couple of other things than a resistor, but I'm pretty sure it was a resistor. Whatever it was, I knew that was the only real source of resistance in this circuit. And so what I did, I wanted to put in a 270 ohm resistor from Radio Shack. And so I carefully heated up the solder so I could pull this off. And then, I don't want to take it out right now, but you'll see that I put a resistor right where it came from. So all I did was swap this out for that. And that was kind of tedious, but it fits beautifully. I kept this intact. And then here I've got my circuit. I put just a little dab of hot glue, not covering it, but on the side to kind of keep these out of the way. Then it comes all the way up here. And here is my LED. Now I'll point out it's kind of tough to fit these around this air pipe, but it was doable. So I did that. Then over here, I decided instead of trying to fill the little slots here in the side of the shell, I just let this air pipe show through, and I painted that with silver. One thing I'll note is that the clear coat really dulled the silver. It looks more like a white gray with a little metallic sheen right now. It did look like upright silver before. Not much I can do about that. The customer still thinks it looks good, so that's that. Up here we've got the clip lock, and not clip lock, whatever this thing is called. You'll see that as always, I cut off one side of it. You see this little tab right here to the right of my finger? Well, there was one of those in front, I just cut it out. Now, this really doesn't work with rail attachments anymore, but I liked having that there a lot better than having a hole. I planned to reinforce this loop here, as well as the spaces in this catch, but this has a stock spring. I didn't need to. I did reinforce the spring rest slash catch rest, which just filled it in with epoxy putty because I like reinforcements, and this wasn't going to slow the plunger rod down at all. So there is putty in there, but there's paint so you can't really see it. And then let's take a look at this air pipe here. You'll see over here some of the blue showing through as well as the black. This wide piece here, this is the rubber stopper. And I just cut down part of it back here so that this air pipe could come down and go forward. And it works beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. Now this stopper is a little wide to make this shell fit together well, but I made it work, I made it fit. And I don't want to take this out of the shell right now, but this air pipe here, you've got the rubber stopper here, then you've got, and that's what came with the Triad, then you've got these two pieces of supply line that meet here and are sealed with hot glue. Originally I had those come just up to here, and then I had this little nylon tube go into here to take the air pressure in. Well, this air pipe, this large piece of supply line goes all the way in there. So I just had to drill those holes a little bigger, grind them out with my Dremel, and I'll throw up an image right now. And that's that. So I am very pleased with how this turned out. A little tricky to put back together, getting these wires to fit. Most of these connections are soldered, but I didn't have a lot of room to solder in here. And some of this I did before I found my solder. So there's a couple of parts here that aren't actually soldered together, but I have two wires wrapped together very securely, closed with electrical tape. I like shrink wrap tubing, but at this time I also couldn't find my shrink wrap tubing. So the only place this circuit would likely fail is right here, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it is, the commissioner can contact me if they want me to fix it, but I'm very pleased with how secure all of this is, with how all of it works. And there you should see the major differences from my original TriadStrike build. I don't see much of a point in doing a new how-to video, even though the old ones are really long. I think if you see this and you've modded anything before, you should have a pretty good chance of duplicating this if you so desire. Light test 1, totally dark environment. Light test 2, semi-lit space. Light test 3, dimly lit college campus at night, very HVZ appropriate. Definitely not quite a spot lamp on a semi-lit college campus, but definitely usable at mid to short ranges for target identification. I almost forgot the Drac spin test. It is not perfectly balanced for spinning by any means, but it's not difficult to do. So there you have it, blaster range comparisons, as well as an internal run-through and a light demonstration. That is the Fangtastic TriadStrike. And actually, now that I mention this, I feel like I should explain where the name came from. Bobololo on Nerf Modders Welcome saw when I was painting the base coats on these. It was just in the fanger red, or burgundy crimson, whatever you want to call it, and the black. None of the silver detailing had gone on just yet. And Bobololo found it and commented, "It's Fangtastic!" To which I replied with this meme. So that's where the name came from. I'm pretty happy with it. It's got, this blaster is my signature on it, Drac's signature on it. I really kind of dislike painting just because it takes so much time and because I've had a hard time finding painting conditions, but I'm very pleased with how this blaster turned out, and I am very sad to be sending it away. I feel like this would be a centerpiece of my collection for years to come. But I will be making myself my own, as well as a couple more that I have lined up for commissions. If you're interested in a commission from me related to this blaster or any others, be sure to be aware that I will charge you the most honest price that I can. With a modest labor fee in there. But painting, be prepared to wait a while and be prepared to pay for labor, because painting takes so much time and effort, especially for someone who's as careful about detail as me. So that is my Fangtastic TriadStrike, the first production TriadStrike Mark II. To me, this is the definitive TriadStrike. This is how it should have been. The first one was a prototype that had some errors that I've corrected here. It's got my light, it's got improved air delivery, everything. Future versions, I plan to have stronger springs in there, see how much performance I can get out of this. But this is, if you ask me to make you a TriadStrike, this is the version that I am going to make you, unless we negotiate otherwise. And I'm happy to get creative with other things. So I am very pleased with this. I am very pleased with the positive reception it's gotten. Look forward to more content soon. I like making blasters and I like sharing this stuff with you people. I've got a couple of other cool kind of creative ideas coming up that involve some Frankensteining and creative integrations that I haven't seen before. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and keep your stick on the ice. Something I'm going to make a promise to you is that I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than my usual videos, because